And I'll formally introduce Michelle Michi Bradley, National FCC Broadcast Policy Advocate and founder and director of REC Networks. Um, she's going to talk about the LPFM window, of course, and NCE window updates, as well as proposed improvements to HD radio. And she's happy to answer questions too. So, with that, I'll turn it over to you, Michi. Thank you.
Hi, good seeing everybody, and especially Ursula and Stephanie and Sharon. Glad to see you all, especially since we're all recovering from the GRC and just waiting for the next one. And hopefully, we can all meet together and have more margaritas and have a good time. Anyway, um, just to yes, it has been crazy, beyond crazy over here. These since the close of the window on the 15th of December, I've just been working nonstop in doing a lot of what I call my post-window activities. We did this 2 years ago for the NCE. It wasn't as complex as this, but there's a lot going on in this window, and a lot of things that we're looking at here. And so we've been able to collect a lot of information. We have a fantastic tool that is out there if you just want to watch the play-by-play of this window. And you go to recnet.com/window. It is the window tracker tool. Everything you want to know about this filing window, it's all in there. And as things get updated throughout the day, bam, that thing gets updated. So it's a lot of it is fully automated and works out very, 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 very well. And thank you, Sharon, for putting that in the chat, since like I mentioned, I only have one keyboard and I can't easily move things over to the chat. So
Michi, does this mean that if somebody can check the status of their application on your website?
absolutely, yeah, they can look at a lot of things on there, and they
Okay.
can look at. We've already predicted what the groups of what will likely be the groups of mutually exclusive applications are. We do our own version of the MX groups first, and then the FCC will release their official one, and then we just move everything over to that and use their numbers instead of ours. And but right now we're giving people a sneak preview of what's going on. I have gone through. We have 148 MX groups in this window, and I've already gone through each and every one of them, and I've scored them. I've analyzed them, and I have adjusted a lot of points, unfortunately. And a lot of folks, unfortunately, did not understand the established community presence point requirements, the documentation requirements on the in this filing window. So we've adjusted a ton of points on that. I don't know if the FCC is going to agree with us, but some of those would definitely have an impact on the outcome of the window. And honestly, I hope the FCC does follow, and they are consistent with how they did things in the 2021 NCE window, where we had the same issues. So it'll be it'll be interesting to see how this all boils out. Not everybody agrees with my with my decisions. I've gotten my share of I've gotten my share of hate mail. I've gotten my share of inquiries over this, but hey, somebody's got to put it out there, and that's what we do. And it's all about integrity of the service. Whether I agree with it or not, it's fair. That's how we're trying to treat everybody fairly here, coming out of this window. Anyway, we had 1,336 applications that were filed in this window. That is less than half of what we had in 2013. But of course, a lot of things have changed since 2013. First of all, we don't have a ton of money that's coming into the awareness of LPFM that we had in 2013, because with the enactment of the Local Community Radio Act, there were a lot of big dollar nonprofit organizations that were backing the LPFM service at the time. We had, I mean, come on, Prometheus had lush offices and stuff like that. I mean, those were the days, you know, but we didn't have that luxury this time around. We also had a lot fewer frequencies available in the urban areas. We did get in, there were a couple of metro areas that we were able to get into. I think Cleveland, St. Louis were in there. Also, with a change in the rules that I asked for a couple years ago, we were able to get an explosion of applications in Puerto Rico. I was predicting that we were going to have a huge undertaking, and you know, we were going to have a huge outcome in Puerto Rico. And with the change in the Channel 6 rule, we were able to get there's a bunch of stations, and actually one of our big, I think our biggest, one of our biggest MX groups with 7 applicants is in Puerto Rico. Springfield, Massachusetts also has a 7-member MX group, and I think that's actually the biggest. When you compare that with the 2013 window, where the biggest one was in Los Angeles with 32. So yeah, things have definitely changed for this window. Let's see what else here. What other notes here do we have? We did do the studies on this, and it looks like just over half of the applications that were filed in this window, I'd say about 55% or so, were filed by secular organizations as opposed to faith-based organizations. I know there's been a lot of concern in the community about, you know, hey, too many faith-based stations are coming in and such like that. But we could thank Todd Urich and the common frequency folks, especially because at the last minute, you know, they took advantage of, you know, they took advantage of the delay in the window start, and they went out there and they mobilized, and they got a bunch of groups coming in at the last minute and filing for stations. So that definitely brought the number up. And so we've got that. Let's see, out of that 1,336, we had 882 singleton applications. These are applicants that are not mutually exclusive. They're not facing any competing applications. So yeah, the singleton number was nice and high when when you compare it with the entire when you look at the whole 1,336 and you have 882 singletons, yeah, that's still pretty good. That means a lot of folks will be getting stations. So far we have 590 of those stations.
Okay.
All right. Oops. Okay. We had about 590 of those so far. 590 of those 882 applications are already on FCC public notice, meaning that they've been accepted for filing, and a 30-day window has opened up. And so what will happen now is that anybody who has standing can file a petition to deny, or any member of the general public at large can file an informal objection. Now, of course, if they file, they have to come up with, there has to be a valid legal reason to, for an objection to go. And of course, I filed my share of them over the years. And I'm pretty familiar with what people are looking for and what I'm looking for. And I'm not going to say that I'm not going to be filing any informal objections in this filing window, because we are watching. There's some various things that are going on right now throughout the country that we are watching. Right now, REC's focus is on large-scale issues. We are watching the public safety filings that are coming through. We had a lot of applications that came in, over 200 plus of them that came in, that were claiming to be public safety organizations. And normally that carve out in the rules is mostly for government agencies that provide police and fire and transportation and such like that. And that's what it's designed for. But the FCC does allow non-government to come in there as long as they have, quote, jurisdiction over an area, the area that they want to serve. And that's what we're going to challenge them on. We have a lot of applications that are in the southern states, mainly along the coast and in the areas that are prone to hurricanes. And this organization called the Weather Alert Radio Network has filed these applications. And the FCC has not accepted those for filing, even though they should have been accepted for filing based on the way that the FCC is doing the singletons right now. So they are definitely moving them out of the way. We also have a small number of them that were done through Jim Ellinger's Austin Airwaves that we're also concerned about right now. So
I see Paul has a question, Michi.
Yeah, actually,
go ahead.
two. Quickly, how transparent do these public safety statements have to be? And the second is, I've forgotten the first one that I came up with. You'll probably talk to it. If you don't, I'll come back to it.
Problem. Yeah, public safety, there's really no rule. There's really no specific thing. All the rule says is that they have to have jurisdiction. And this is something I tried to challenge this a couple years ago on an attempt by an educational applicant to pick up a second station. We actually have at REC, we have a petition for rulemaking drafted to try to beef up the public safety rules to require more document. If it is a non-government entity that's applying, that they have to provide specific documentation from the government authority, basically saying that they have a compact or a contract with this organization and that they have jurisdiction. I mean, the perfect example of a non-government public safety applicant would be a volunteer fire department. That's really, I think, what the FCC was considering when they were thinking of non-government entities that were, that would be filing. But in the case of Warren, in the case of the Weather Alert folks, in the case of Austin Airwaves, they have showed no documentation that really shows that they have specific jurisdiction in the areas that they're proposing to serve, that has come from either a state, county, or a local authority. And that's what we would be looking for. The FCC has specific rules for the land mobile services in Part 90 that does require this documentation. And what we were going to ask for was to have similar requirements for LPFM. Of course, we weren't anticipating that this was going to happen, what we saw happen in this window. But I shelved the rulemaking because I did not want to delay this window. Because if I was to put this out there and the FCC was to really want to consider it, guess what? We would have probably had a filing window in 2026, and I don't think anybody would have wanted that. So I had to weigh the issues, what was in the best interest, but this is something that will probably come back after this window is, after we're done with this window. I am planning on a lessons learned petition for rulemaking. So we'll be definitely watching all the issues that come in, and staff does too. And sometimes staff will do things. We had rulemaking proceedings back in 2019, MB docket 19.3 and 19.193, that included a mix of stuff that I proposed, as well as things that the staff experienced during the 2013 LPFM window. Some of the stuff around site assurance and stuff like that, that was all staff observations, and that was stuff that they added in on their own motion. So yeah, so there will be a time to do that, but we're going to be watching these applicants closely. Again, none of them have been accepted for filing, so we can't do anything until they are. And also with these public safety applicants, if you're in an MX group with one of them, the public safety applicant is going to get wiped off the top, and whatever's left will either get granted or will continue to compete. Public safety can only specify one of their applications as a priority application, and if that application, if it's priority, then it can compete within the MX group. Otherwise, any applications that they file that are not considered, that they don't call priority, they don't compete. They're wiped off the top, and whatever's left. If I have right now, I've got 2 clients right now in MX groups with the weather alert people. And yeah, they're in an MX group right now, but when the point order comes out later this year, the weather alert is going to go away, and then they're going to be they're going to be the remaining tentative selectee. They're going to be the one that's going to get it. So yeah, they're MX, but they're not really MX. So that's kind of what's going on there. Let's see, we had 454 applicants are in MX groups total. It's 148 MX groups that we have identified so far. Some of them are the weather alert applicant actually MXing with themselves, which is kind of silly. They filed 2 applications, same frequency, less than 24 kilometers apart, and created an MX group of themselves. I think we have like about 5 or 6 of those out there. So those will probably get wiped. I don't know how but that's going to be an interesting thing to see. How is the FCC going to handle 2 public safety non-priority applications filing in the same MX group? So that's gonna be interesting to see what the FCC, unless the FCC wipes them out completely because of lack of jurisdiction, which is actually what we're kind of hoping for in this case. So excuse me. What's going to happen is sometime around the end of this month, the FCC will release a public notice for the that will officially announce who the MX groups are. They're not going to give the scores yet. They're only just going to say, yeah, these are the 148 or whatever MX groups. Here's their group numbers that we will use going forward in any proceedings. Our systems will be updated once they put out their numbers. And so we use their numbers instead of ours. We just use ours right now as a placeholder. What that will happen is when that opens up, when that a notice is released, that will open up a 60-day period for settlement agreements. And this is the first of 2 opportunities for MX applicants to have settlement agreements. In the first opportunity, they have 60 days. They can either make a unilateral change and just try to break out of the group, or they can try to reach a universal agreement with everybody in the group. If they make any technical modifications, they have to be minor modifications. So either moving it no more than 11.2 kilometers, or no more than 1, 2, 3, 53 or 54 channels up or down. So they're restricted on modifications in that in that way. But there are a few things that they can do to try to break out of the MX group. We have a couple. I've got a couple clients that are going to be able to break out of the MX group on a minor change, so that's going to be good for them. So they will probably have their construction permits by the spring, if they do that. So then what will happen is after the 60-day window is closed, sometime later this year, the FCC is going to start releasing what's called the points public notice. There's going to probably be more than one that will be released. The FCC did 3 for the 2023, for the 2013 window. I think they might do 2 for this window because of the fewer MX groups in this window. And at that point, that's where the scores come in. So at that time, what the Media Bureau does is during this time is they're going to go through, they're going to analyze, they're going to look at all the applications that are in the MX groups. They're going to look and make sure that they have, that they're claiming the points and that they just, that their point claims are justified. This is where they're going to look at those established community presence claims to make sure that they've got the right information in there. And if not, they're going to adjust points. They're going to take points off. And then that's going to show, that goes to the full commission to be reviewed and voted on. Usually these will show up on the agenda as a restricted adjudicatory proceeding. And then the FCC votes on it. Usually this doesn't happen during the open meeting. This usually happens before the open meeting, but it is still an open meeting agenda item. And they'll usually vote on it beforehand and then take it off the agenda. And then that's when we see the notice come out. And that will be the points. That will be the points. At that point, at that time, the FCC will take the highest scoring group in the highest scoring applicant in each MX group, and there could be more than one, and make those a tentative selectees for the group. This is going to open a 90-day window. 90-day window, you can do a lot of things in this window. You can reach timeshare agreements with other applicants that are, if you're the lead applicant, if you have the most number of points in your group, and you can actually go into a timeshare agreement with another lead applicant in the group, and then combine your points together and add them up. Let's say there's an MX group. Let's say we have an MX group of 4 applicants. There's 3 of them with 5 points, 1 with 4 points. 2 of those 5-point applicants can reach a timeshare agreement and combine their points. They would have 10 points each. The other group that didn't participate would only have 5. And then there's the 4-point applicant. The outcome will be the 2 5-point groups that went into the timeshare agreement would win the channel, because they would have 10 10 and then 5 5. They would 5 and 4. They would beat out the other group. So that can be done. What can also be done is modifications to try to get out of the group. And unlike the previous 60-day window, this one allows major changes. So you could go to any channel that's available, not just the 3 up and 3 down. You can go to any channel and also to any location, as long as you still continue to meet localism and all that. So there's a lot of flexibility in that second opportunity for stations to break out and become singletons. So whatever they could find, that will be the time to do it. If they don't do anything, if there's still a tie after that 90-day window closes, then the FCC will do involuntary timesharing. And under an involuntary timeshare, they look at the age of the organization, and they take, if there's more than, let's say there's more than 3 tentative selectees, let's say there's more than 3 5-point applicants in the group, they'll take the 3 oldest groups. Those will remain, the rest will go away. And then they'll give the oldest group first choice of time slots. And there's predetermined time slots if there's 2 and if there's 3, but it goes in seniority order. And whoever's the youngest of the groups, well, they get whatever's left. Now, if it does go involuntary, those licenses are non-renewable. And the only way that you could get it renewable is at a later time, come back with a voluntary timeshare agreement. You can do voluntary timeshare agreements. If you're stuck on this, if you're stuck in involuntary, you can do a voluntary timeshare agreement anytime you want, and then that will automatically switch you from non-renewable to renewable. So it's just the way that the FCC is kind of bullying the applicants to just get together and talk, which is something we need to do more. We need to talk more. So it's a good policy. And so
Any other questions at this point? Paul, was that you?
Yeah. So Michelle, the other question, and I realize this could be a really complicated answer, but just a short answer about.
I'll try. I can't guarantee it.
About who determines and what are the rules concerning having standing?
Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked that question, because I kind of skipped over that when I was talking earlier. Excellent question. Now, first of all, the standing in this case has to do with whether you file a petition to deny or whether you file an informal objection. Now, a petition to deny is a formal filing. It does have a little more teeth than an informal objection, but trust me, I've gone a long way on informal objections in the past. As long as you've got the evidence there, you might have enough to do it. But but on a petition to deny, first of all, there are some strict rules regarding pleading cycle. You've got to have your, it's got to be filed within that 30-day period, where an informal objection can be filed anytime up to the decision. There's a 10 days for oppositions, and I think 5 days for replies to the opposition. So there's a formal pleading cycle. There's specific language that you have to put in the petition to deny, subscriptions such as penalty of perjury, and I swear everything I know is all correct to the best of my knowledge and all that stuff. And also there's a service requirement where if you file it, you have to serve a copy, and you can do it by first class mail to all the other, if you're doing it to an MX, if you're doing this in an MX group, you serve all the parties in the MX group because everybody's involved. If it's just on an individual applicant, then you just serve the individual applicant that you're filing the petition to deny against. Standing require, in order to do the petition to deny, you have to have standing, and basically you have to be a party that is going to be directly impacted by the grant of the application. So this could be, for example, another, if it's an MX group, another member of the MX group. It could be another broadcast facility that's that's on co-channel, or could receive possible technical issues from the LPFM. It could be a member of the community that is in the predicted service area of the proposed station. So basically anybody who has those specific types of standing can file a petition to deny. Everybody else, like for example me, informal objection, you can do almost the same amount of damage with one of those, except that it's an informal proceeding, and any member of the general public can do it, despite what the opposing attorneys will tell you. You can do it, trust me. But that's that's the process on how that works. You don't have to serve on an informal objection. I usually do just as a courtesy. Unless I'm in a really bad mood or somebody put me in a really bad mood, then yeah, I might think about that. But informal objections, yeah, and there's a lot more flexibility going that way. But the key thing is you've got to have evidence. You got to have hard evidence if you're filing any kind of a pleading, whether it's an informal or a petition. There's got to be hard evidence. No hearsay. I have people that say, oh, well, there's a Facebook page that says this. There's a newspaper. There's a Wikipedia article. Even a newspaper report can be seen as hearsay. You've got to have solid evidence. You've got to have like state documents. You've got to have, stuff like that out there. I mean, we had like a couple of situations that back in 2013 where they tried to file objections against people because they were pirating, running pirate radio stations. And the only information that they could provide was like newspaper articles and Facebook pages. And the FCC said that was hearsay. Other cases, they provided past FCC notices. And in one case in Florida, they provided a police report because in Florida, New York, and New Jersey all have specific pirate radio laws, and the FCC took that. So that to them was not hearsay. So you've got to have your evidence together. REC does provide a ton of information right now in the window tracker, where we ran some programs that banged up phone numbers, email addresses, and some other parameters of the applications against every other application that's ever been filed to see if there's any similarities, any exact things. And we put that in what we call our applications of concern list. And we just put that out there. We put the raw data out there and said, hey, if you want to investigate that, feel free to do that. That doesn't, the FCC is not going to look at that. The FCC cannot make a determination based on the REC tool. Legally, they can't do that. But there's nothing legally stopping me from putting the information out there for anybody to work with So in case there is an issue with a with an applicant, and trust me, like I said, we're seeing trends. We're seeing some of the usual characters are out there this time around. Not as bold as they were 10 years ago, but they are still out there. And we are seeing some multiple filers out there. And that's
Question from Sharon.
Sharon.
Oh, I've got a lot of them. But I'll start with the one that you were just talking about. The multiple filers. There was a few, there's a few I've noticed, like the lifestyle educational radio that seem to have like these boilerplate educational statements and this sort of thing. Is the FCC going to look into that, or is that something that we as citizens would need to, if we felt like that was a multiple?
You as citizens would need to do that because, I had somebody contact me earlier and ask about, you got all these applications on the ACL, on the applications of concern list. Is the FCC going to do anything about them? I said, look, the FCC cannot legally do that because they can't base things on suspicion. They can only base things on fact. And so what we see is we see, for example, we'll see board members, we'll see new board members on an application, but the phone number will come back to something that already exists. The phone number will come back on another LPFM application in this window, or it will come back to an LPFM from 2013. It will come back on a broadcast ownership report. We're looking at the ownership reports in there too. So, we got a nice little program, and it did a lot of nitpicking, and it saved me a ton of manual work. 10 years ago, I did the ACL on a spreadsheet, on an Excel spreadsheet, just by using sorts and stuff like that. And I only was able to line up things within the application, within the window. And those are the only things that were up there. But since we have, we pretty much replicate the whole entire FCC database in our house over here. And we actually get the applications as they come in. So we get things off the, of the FCC data that the FCC doesn't even put in their raw data feed. So we get a little bit more information than what they give on the application, when what they put in this. The FCC has this raw machine readable feed that's used by a lot of folks to, a lot of us who are into the technical side of doing applications. We have certain software and things like that that use the FCC raw data, but we go one step further, and we're able to really dig into that information. And I was really happy with the outcome of the ACL program this year, and we have a ton of information there. We have let's see here. Do I say how many is on the ACL here? No, I don't. Let's see.
Are you all, are you going to bring that to the attention of the FCC?
My priority right now, it's going to, Michi's rule number, I think this is rule number 17, I think it is. I don't know. I come up with these rules all the time, but I think it's Michi's rule number 17 is pick your battles.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And what are we going to focus on? Obviously I'm not going to give away the shop, and of course we're still going through things. And right now my clients are coming first, and we got to get through all of them, make sure everybody knows where they're at in this window. But the main things I'm concerned about are national and very regional issues that are widespread. That, like, for example, I mentioned earlier, the public safety applications, if those go accepted for filing, there's a good chance that we will intervene. We also have our eye on somebody down in Louisiana who has filed a ton of applications across the country regarding supposedly as part of some media movement of some kind, some organization that's associated with Acorn. But they have filed a ton of a person named Wade Rathke. And so we're looking into all those applications because there's a lot of conflicting information on them. And we feel that they might have been speculative applications. Again, we have not made a final determination on those applications. So I'm not really ready to lower the gauntlet, but that's the kind of stuff we're focusing on. We have some applicants in Texas and such, part of the, basically part of the Cesar Guel, Hector Guevara clan, cartel, whatever you want to call, and their affiliates, as I call them. We're watching those applications. We don't have the big obvious Cesar Guel type of situation like we had in 2013 with the Hispanic Educational Family Foundation applications. We don't have that this time around. There was some concerns regarding about 17 applications that were filed by a church organization called CPP of the WMM. You might have seen that around on the window tool. We did a full investigation into those, and we released a statement on that. And we said that we are considering those legitimate applications. And basically, we're citing the Calvary Chapel from the first window. So
I know that Wade was one of the speakers of the GRC in Portland. I don't know if you remember, but he's a protege of Lorenzo Malam, and I think he's probably going with the Lorenzo Malam, planting apple seeds. I don't know Wade very well, but I'm pretty sure those are legitimate organizations.
They probably are, but and I would say I would say throw ABC gum against the wall and see if it sticks. That's what I think the weather alert people are doing. I think it's just and the concerns about the weather alert people is that they do have connections with commercial broadcast. They're also commercial broadcasting consultants of some kind. And so it gets you wondering, how are they going to fund 200 plus radio stations? Where's that money coming from?
Yeah, the lifestyle educational radio was kind of freaking me out because it was like teach women how to be good wives and stuff like this.
Well, and and we can't look at the and that's the whole thing.
And then their board members were not. They would have a board member address that was in the middle of a field, all three of their board members happened to live in some undeveloped neighborhood that didn't have any houses yet. So
exactly. Those are the things you want to look at. You also want to look at the site assurance, and making sure that we got that rule changed where you now have to disclose who you talked to say, hey, you can build your site here if you get your construction permit. We now have that requirement. We didn't have that in 2013. We have that now. So, and that's the reason why the information is there. Now, of course, whether it's legit information, we saw one where one of the board members gave themselves site assurance. So, so there's going to be some questions around that. But again, that's one of those things where, especially if you're directly affected, that's where you can that's where you can go with that. Now in the boilerplate educational statements, we're seeing a lot of those in this window, but we're seeing them both from faith-based and from grassroots. The responsibility is shared there. A lot of Todd Urich's applications are boilerplates. And I talked about actually it was in the WMM, the CPP, I think it was in the CPP statement that I put out. I discussed boilerplates, and I said, while they are technically allowed, they don't show the uniqueness of the applicant. And in order for us to really determine what type of applicant they are, because that way we could properly put them into our 6-segment system, so that way we know, like, are they an LGBTQ supportive organization? Are they an African American advocacy organization? What do they do? Are they environmental? If they're a church, what type of church are they? Are they a Baptist church? Are they affiliated with the Calvary Chapel movement? What are they doing? We have different codes for that. We track that stuff. Do they have past media history? Are they a major webcaster? Are they Do they do like a local, like weekly newspaper or zine or something like that? We have, we have segment codes for those. So we
Yeah, it's
track those.
fascinating.
Those
I
are the
hope-
ones
I
that go
hope-
in those are the ones those are the ones that go into what we call community media. Community media is not
yeah.
radio. It's anything other than radio that is still community media. Public
Check
access
out the
TV is a
website.
good one on that.
Yeah, everyone needs to look at the the REC Network's website. I mean, it's fascinating to see what the different categories are. I'm still a little unsettled about the, so many religious and how come we didn't get more community stations to apply, but that's another discussion we can have in the future. I wanted to ask about what's happening right now. The stations that are going on, that have been put on notice that their applications have been accepted for filing. At this point, they need to be making public notice
Yes.
to let people know that they have been accepted for filing, and so that
Right.
people can know this is the time if they want to make any kind of objection or whatever. Can you briefly, because I know Martha is one of them, there might be others on here. What exactly do they need to be doing right now in terms of
Okay.
letting people know?
Yeah, not
Another
a problem.
quick question. I wanted to find out about my call letters that I asked for. How do I
Okay,
find
and I
out?
will
if I
answer
get
that
those?
too. I will
Thank you.
answer that too. All right, let's talk about public notice first, then we'll talk about call letters. Public notice. Once you're on there as once you're on the public notice as accepted for filing, you show up with the nice indigo background in the tracker tool. You have it's a 30, you have to put on your organization's website a link that basically says FCC public notices, and you link that to another page on your website to create a new page. If you're using like Drupal or WordPress or something, create a new page for your public notices. And there is specific text that you have to put on there. You can just go, if you go to recnet.com/public-notice, and if you scroll up the chat, I did put it in the chat earlier. There's a link there to it. And you go to that page, it will give you the basic information, but it will also, there's a little place where you can put, if you put in your 6-digit facility ID number, that's the one that begins with a 77 or 78 or whenever you got yours. You can, it will actually construct the message for you with your name, your frequency, your city, and all that. It will actually construct the message in there that you can just copy and paste and put that onto your onto your page. So we're doing that for you.
That's great.
So that's a neat little toy that's in there. That also worked. We also did that for the NCE window too. But that's pretty much what happens.
Thank you for that, Michi.
Yeah, not a problem. And so the you have, once it's published in the public notice, on the FCC public notice, then you have 5 days to start the process of putting it on your website. It's got to live on there for 30 days. What you need to do is you also need to make a record of the fact that it was on your website, where it was on your website and what days it was on there. You don't have to send that to the FCC, but just keep that in your station records in case somebody challenges you on that. So you want that. Actually, I think there's a piece in the rule that says that you have to, that you do have to do this, this paperwork, and and you do that, like right after you take it off after the 30 days, and just say, yeah, it was, certifying that, yeah, it was on there for 30 days. You do not have to use the newspaper. Actually, newspapers are out. You don't have to publish your public notice in the newspaper. That used to be a requirement up until just recently. Now, the FCC never enforced it for they never had it in the rules for the 2013 window, even though they were supposed to. Technically, the FCC violated the Communications Act in the 2013 and the 2000 windows by not requiring these public notices. But I was one of the big people that pushed to have the newspaper requirements changed over to something like online, because of the expense that's involved for these small organizations to purchase legal notices in a very large newspaper, that for a station that only covers a very small portion of the newspaper circulation area. So there was, you know, the NAB was with us on that. All the broadcasters were with us on that. Of course, the newspapers fought us in that proceeding, but that was a that was a victory for this shop. Our involvement in the public notices. Now on to the call letters. Once you
Martha, congratulations.
I'm so excited.
Thank you, Ursula. It should really be saying it to Todd. He practically twisted my arm because when I couldn't have the antenna on my property, I was ready to drop it. And he found this frequency and basically just applied for free. And now that I've gotten it, I feel like a renewed, you know, sense of urgency about it all and dedication to it, you know.
So it's not the same application as WMXP was?
WMXP.
Yeah, because last I heard you weren't going to do it
Oh,
because
right, because that exactly. And so this is 92.1. It's a different area, more to the west, that still includes my neighborhood, but it's a little more rural, but there's also like this growing Mexican neighborhood in there, and it's kind of an interesting mix. And I think it might actually, and it's all growing so fast that I think it's actually going to be rather interesting.
that's great. It's great to hear, Martha.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you.
job. Yeah.
well,
Yeah, we're
you
so
know,
I
excited.
can get WLBH.
yeah, and so you know, plus also to just so y'all know, the Riverton Radio Project Association. Yes.
Yes, I've been seeing your
Michelle,
posts
with
about that.
Michelle and Eva Bradley as the board members. We went to public notice on the first day.
So you're a singleton, right, Michelle?
We are a singleton here in Riverton,
Congratulations.
89.1.
Congratulations.
So yeah, hopefully we'll get our construction permit by early February sometime. And then as soon as we can get the time, the money, well, we kind of have some of the money. I think we've got the funding. But it's just going to be the logistics of tower construction. That's going to be our big issue over here. But once we do that, then we'll have FM Riverton on the air, which will be a Pacifica affiliate, and it'll be a little less talk. It'll be more music focused than talk focused, like our Delmarva FM stream is right now, where it is very Pacifica talk heavy. This will be Pacifica music heavy. So we're going to be taking all your programs, including yours, Art FM.
Awesome. Can't wait.
I guess I
Cool.
should have mentioned that Listen and Be Heard is going to be very literary heavy, but also, and that would include like nonfiction. So we're addressing like environmental and climate things as well through talking to writers on the subjects.
Yeah,
So
we're also helping another applicant just down the road from us here, about 5 miles away, over in Vienna, Maryland. They're singleton also, and they'll be putting up another LPFM station. And so we're far enough away where we could probably collaborate on a lot of things and have distinctive areas. So that we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to seeing where all that can go. And you know, finally putting the station up there. But anyway, call signs.
Can I ask one thing before you move on to that, Michelle? What if the group doesn't have a website yet, as far as their public notice? Do they have to get one, or is there another
Get
option?
one. Just get one. It's easy to, I mean, you could just, if you want to do one of those stupid little Wix websites, you know, where you do it for free, and, you know, and their little ads are in the corner or whatever, you know, remember GeoCities? Remember those free websites? I mean, you know, you set up one of those little Wix sites, that's sufficient enough. Otherwise, what you have to do is the option is that you could put it on a quote publicly accessible local website. And the examples that the FCC gives for that are local websites that are run by newspapers. Okay, that will appease the newspapers. Okay, your local chamber of commerce. Good luck getting on there without being a member.
What about next door?
Your state association of broadcasters. Good luck in some states, especially New Jersey, who hates LPFM. So they really didn't give too many choices. What we offered up during the rulemaking was the ability for just a general site that's dedicated to broadcast public notices. And the FCC totally rejected the idea. We had it already ready to go. We had the domains and everything for broadcastpublicnotice.com. It's already set up where we could actually just host public notices and have, you know, and have it be that way. But nope, the FCC didn't want that. So I just tell everybody, just get a free website, go to Wix, get a website, go to GoDaddy, go to somebody. A lot of them.
And what did you suggest, Martha? Nextdoor?
Well, I asked, but just, I don't know if it would work, but Nextdoor is like, you know, every neighborhood, but they're national, but they're local.
Yeah, the thing about you can't, the FCC actually addressed things like that. You cannot use social media.
Okay. I guess that
So-
is.
So Nextdoor, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever the heck it's being called today, depending on what crybaby owns it. You know, MySpace, if that's still a thing. No, you can't use social media. You've got to use.
What about, like, just to throw Ursula and Stephanie under the bus, what if Pacifica set up a site for public notices on their on the Pacifica website? Would something like that work? Or is that not locally enough?
I don't think I think the FCC was trying to veer away from national.
Okay.
Otherwise they would have approved my idea of a broad, because if that was the case, basically what Pacifica would be running is exactly what I was proposing, was the ability to host public notices on a national basis.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
that idea was thrown out in the proceeding. So I'm going to say no on that one.
Okay. Thank you.
Closest
Move
thing
on
would
to
be
call letters. Thank you. You've
closest
answered all my
would be a
questions.
State Broadcast Association, and some of them have been becoming more LPFM friendly lately. So, but we still have some holdbacks, New Jersey. Anyway, call letters. Call letters cannot be assigned. They cannot be reserved until after the construction permit is granted. As soon as that construction permit grant hits LMS and then eventually hits our systems, then you can go into the call sign. You can go into LMS and reserve your call sign and lock it in.
And is that going to happen as soon as this public notice period is over, or is there something else that happens after that?
Well, after the 30 days, then the government works at the speed of government.
Okay.
So I'm telling folks that even after the 30 days is over with, as long as there's been no objections that are filed, no pleadings that have been filed during those 30 days, the FCC is going to do more checking. You know, the FCC originally, when they accepted you for filing, they did a technical study to make sure that you weren't short-spaced, a co-channel first adjacent and second without a waiver. That's what they checked for. And so what the FCC is doing right now over this next 10 days or so, 10 business days, is doing the public notices for everybody who filed. And I think what they're doing is they're going day by day. So everybody who filed on the 6th, on the first day, was in the first public notice, and then it's just going to keep going until they're done. But then what will happen is afterwards, the FCC will, after the periods go over with, then the FCC's got to go through each application, make sure all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, to make sure that, you know, all the information that they're looking for is in there. The educational statement is strong enough. A lot of weak educational statements in this window, a lot of them. I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing delays on grants because the FCC is going to be they're either going to do one of two things. If they do it like they do assignments, they're going to contact the applicant and say, hey, look, your statement is weak, beef it up. Or they could dismiss the application, say that the organization has not demonstrated that they are, you know, that they're advancing an educational program, and then, you know, they'll have 30 days for reconsideration, and they can amend the application and put a new educational statement in there and seek reconsideration. We're seeing a lot of applicants that are the only educational statement that they make is that they're a broadcast school. They're out there to train future broadcasters. That is not acceptable. The FCC is looking for over-the-air training and instruction. That's what they're looking for in these ed statements. And there's a ton of them out there that don't have that. We've identified a bunch of them in the MX group evaluations. We don't consider that as a, like, that's not going to take points away or anything, but it's still, it's just, there's a lot of them out there that are just very generic, very boilerplate, and a lot focusing on broadcast schools. Even on the faith-based side, there's a lot of weak educational statements. A lot of them are music focused on both sides. And, you know, that's not what educational radio is necessarily for per se. You know, this goes back to the 1940s when non-commercial educational reserve spectrum was only available to public school systems. And you had the idea of the service was that the radio station was used by the school district to deliver lectures to remote schools that have radio receivers in the classrooms. That was the original intention of non-commercial radio back in the 1940s. And it was actually the religious broadcasters that challenged that. And it's because of Moody Bible Institute, we have the rules that we do today, as far as, you know, anybody could get, you know, any nonprofit organization can get a non-commercial station. It doesn't have to be intended for school educational broadcasting. So, you know, sometimes
I need to look for a notice from them again after this public notice.
what's going to happen? Are you talking about for the grant?
Yeah, like how I'm moving on, like after the public notice, I want to like get my call letters and then
Okay, so what's going to happen? Yeah, so what's going to happen is there's going to be a few ways. There's going to be a few ways to learn about a grant. It'll be published in the Broadcast Actions public notice when it does, but you have to get it on the right day. It'll be posted at fcc.today and REC website. But also, if your email address is correct in your contacts and your station contact information, the FCC will usually email you a notification saying that your application was granted, and it will include an attachment that has your authorization. It has your construction permit in it.
Okay.
So you will get that via email. That's probably going to be the easiest way to know that you've been granted. But like I said, it will also be in all of our systems. We'll know about it. And
I'll
you know,
probably find out then.
and
Okay.
what I'm also telling people is, while they're on this 30-day clock, while they're on this 30-day cycle, go to the REC website, fcc.today, fcc.today, once a day. Just, you don't have to go there. You don't have to live on the site. If you live on the site, you can watch everything that happens throughout the day. But you only have to go there once, let's say after like 10 o'clock in the morning, after all the data has come in from the FCC for the day, because we will publish all the informal objections and petitions to deny that were received. And what you have to do is you have to know your 6-digit facility ID number, the one that begins with the 7, and you just look for your facility ID number in the informal objections and petitions to deny on the page. And if you see one there for you, then someone's filed against your station. So.
Okay.
And also, too, in the window tracker, we put them in the window tracker. If you pull up your individual station record in the window tracker, it will tell you, yeah, there's pleadings in there. So yeah, we track this stuff, and we track it.
That's
very well.
great. Thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you, everyone. I have to go feed the goats and the dog and chickens and everybody else. So I'll see everybody later.
Yeah, no
Thank you,
problem.
Martha.
Bye.
Thank you. And just one, and on the call signs, if you go to recnet.net/calls, CALLS, we have an entire list of possibly vacant call letters.
Okay.
So from all the K's, all the W's that we believe are vacant, they're there. So if you need inspiration on what your call sign is going to be, or if the call sign you want is not available, at least, you know, that will tell you, you know, that will give you a lot of inspiration on other call signs you could possibly use.
Great. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Bye.
Congrats, Martha. Good luck.
Congrats, Martha.
So excited. Gonna do
Okay,
great.
wow. We're going, yeah, I'm sorry this is going so long. We're going overtime here. We're at 5:15 now, Eastern time. But I can stay on.
Michi, who did you say CPC of the WMN was? Who were
Okay,
they?
yeah, CPC of the WMM is the Christ Pentecost Church of the Worldwide Missionary Movement. They are mainly a Hispanic or a Latin American based church, but it is a worldwide movement. When I did some checking, I found presence of them in Australia and other parts of the world. And these are actual churches. We don't have a lot of the only similarity that we have to Caesar Guel on these applications that we could find was the educational statement. That was the only similarity. But each of these churches are individually incorporated. They're incorporated in their own states, not Texas like the Caesar Guels. They actually have brick and mortar facilities with their name on the signs. We found those. So we're treating the WMM Church as the same as we would for Calvary Chapel affiliated churches. To me it's a movement, just like Calvary Chapel's a movement, but these are individual churches that are independently governed.
And what it's say again the name?
The Christ Pentecost Church of the Worldwide Missionary or Christian Pentecost Church of the Worldwide Missionary Movement. If you go to the REC homepage, I think the very first news item that's on there is our official statement on the organization. And we have websites. We put the websites for the organization in there. We have a ton of analysis. We did an in-depth analysis on it because trust me, I wanted to put some applications under the bus, but I give everybody a fair shake. And if I can't find information if I can't find enough information to give, if there's, if I can find enough information to, impress me that, yeah, there's a possibility that there's some legitimacy behind these applications, then I have to pull back and say, no, we're not going to touch those. We had already flagged them as potential speculators to start with. And that was just based on initial thought. And then I went through and I gave them a fair chance and said, look, okay, we're going to, we detained you. Now we're going to do our investigation. We did our investigation and we're releasing you.
So I'm looking at the application for Des Moines, and there's two that are MX. There's the Climate March and then the CPC. Does that mean they're basically the two MX'd against each other?
Yeah, is that that's in Des Moines?
Yeah. Because they're the only two MX that I see.
Yeah, so okay, so group 59. Now in that one, first of all, Climate March claimed the tribal point, which they shouldn't have done. But that'll get adjusted. So that's why we have their 6 down to 5. Let's see here. Yeah, the WMM Church is in there. Now we found some dirt on some dirt on this application. And there is definitely some justification here for if the FCC doesn't adjust these points at the point hearing. This is one that is petition to deny or informal objection worthy.
Okay.
Because we're challenging their established community presence claims because they did not include state documents. They included an IRS letter assigning an EIN. EIN is no evidence of a corporation. And they're also claiming it looks like they're claiming a main studio. Yeah, they're claiming a main studio that's not within 20 miles. It's in Texas. That's enough to take 2 points off the application right there. Yeah, so that's why we knocked them. If you're on the REC site,
Yeah.
and you see in MX Group 59, we knocked them from 5 points down to 2. That's why we took away their established community presence and we took away their main studio. So 5 turns into 2, and for Climate March, 6 turns into 5 because they're not a tribe. They can't claim the tribal point. They can only but they can claim the others, and we verified the others.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So, so yeah, I see Climate March moving forward on that one. But it might need a little bit of help. So make sure that they know. It's not everybody
Okay.
reads their site. Not everybody knows what to do. I don't do filings on behalf of applicants directly. If somebody was to ask me to file an informal objection, I have to refuse. I'm not an attorney. I can't do that. But I can originate stuff on behalf of REC Networks unsolicited. And that's what we do here. Wow. All right. Any other questions on LPFM?
That was beautiful, Michelle. Thank you. I could watch you do that all day.
I could probably sit here and do it all day. That's why I have,
Michi, are you interested in becoming an FCC commissioner?
Oh my God.
I get thrown this question.
I don't know why.
Because I would have to give all this up.
We would lose you.
I would have to give all of this up. Seriously, I would have to give all this up. And also too, I'm only one vote. And and also too, trust me, I really don't want someone like Ted Cruz going through and trying to find every single little skeleton in my closet. Imagine, imagine being a member of the LGBT and being in front of a, and being in front of a Senate committee. I mean, yeah, you'll have about 11 on, maybe have 11 on your side, but you're gonna have 10 that are gonna be against you. So yeah, no, the last thing I want to do is be the top story on OAN or Newsmax or Fox News or wherever. I don't need that. What they did,
They're not ready for you
what
yet.
they did to Gigi Sohn was horrible.
Yeah.
The media did, and what some of the folks on both sides of the aisle did to her
Yeah.
was horrible. But we got Anna Gomez, so we got somebody with who is carrying a little less baggage, but still, we have a 3-2 commission now. This is why we need to be talking to our Congress people about putting bugs in the ear of Jessica Rosenworcel on issues like LP 250, translator reform, rural NCE. These are the big issues we're working on this year. These are our regulatory priorities in 2024. I've already had one trip to DC on some of this stuff already. So, and hopefully we'll have more in the future. We're also working on the issue around what is it? The duplication rule, the AM/FM duplication rule, and we're trying to get that reimposed for FM stations. And I actually met directly with Jessica Rosenworcel on that issue a couple months ago in DC. So that was and I did get the words LP 250 out of my mouth to her ears. She heard it directly from the Michi.
Michi, can you explain what that rule is that you just referenced? I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, this is for full service stations. And I believe it is, I have to look, but I think it's a commercial rule only. But for full service stations, you cannot, a single common owner cannot have the same programming airing on 2 FM stations where there's at least 50% overlap of the city grade, the 70 dB contours. The idea is why are we wasting 2 channels for one program? That's the whole idea. The FCC was originally going to get rid of this rule for AM radio only. I support eliminating the anti-duplication rule for AM because of A, the state that AM radio is in right now, and 2, in order to promote all digital AM radio. So I totally supported that. But at the last minute, and that's the way things were originally written. The circulated draft of the order was that way. But then at the last minute, somebody, probably on the Republican side, added the FM in there. And said, okay, you can duplicate all you want on FM, you can duplicate all you want on AM. We're trying to get that restriction back on the FM side. And who's behind us, right? Who's behind this right now? REC's behind this from the regulatory advocacy side, from the service side, but the music industry is really big on this, and they're the ones that are really leading the charge. Future Music and what's the other ones up there? But yeah, basically it's the music industry that's really pushing for this anti-duplication rule, because they want to see more diversity on the radio, and they don't like the way things are going where it comes to program diversity. And that's really what they're trying to protect there. Let's see. NCE filing window. All I had to say on that was, of course, we all know that the window was held in 2021. 784 applications were granted in that window so far. 446 dismissals. FCC is still working on 11 MX groups. There were basically about 240 total when you include all the bifurcated split groups and everything. There's still some point challenges in those groups. It looks like the FCC is going to be taking some action on something in that, because I just saw the agenda for the next meeting, for the January meeting. So we're going to probably see a little bit of movement on the NCE window this month. HD radio, on that, there's a rulemaking out there right now that a lot of people are hearing about, and they're thinking they hear being called the HD power boost. They're thinking that all HD stations are going to be able to increase their digital power and just dump interference all over the place. That's not exactly true. The power increase what it's doing is it's actually changing some of the technical parameters that we use in HD radio. If you want to use the higher powers, if you want to use more than 4% of your analog power, that you have to meet certain first adjacent contour requirements, spacing requirements. And what the FCC is doing, what the proposal is to bring those in a little closer, so that way there's a little more flexibility for some stations to move outward. You know, there's really, I mean, there's not as much harm in that as it's being put to. Yes, there is going to be concerns for translators and LPFMs and anything secondary, because they're living inside that area. So yeah, there's secondary services, and this is a part of what they agreed to when they signed the papers. And but at the same time, still, we need to be looking out for them. We need to find out what is going to work out best for everybody. But keeping in mind that secondary is kind of in that position. We're kind of not in that position to really negotiate too much on this. But I do consider HD radio very much in the public interest. I consider it a method of delivering program diversity if it's used right. A single station can deliver up to 4 programs at once. We have several LPFMs that are running HD radio. REC Networks has content on 1HD in Los Angeles. And I am totally in favor of HD radio. And I know there's issues. It's being held up right now. And actually who's complaining is the aviation industry. Concerns over HD radio on 107.9 interfering into the aviation band starting at 108. That's the concern. That's really the main concern right now that's holding up that proceeding. So we'll just have to see what happens with that.
Okay, last call for questions. Going once,
last call. Speak now or
going twice. I don't see anyone raising their hands.
Speak now or okay.
Oh, got Kaja.
This is kind of a long shot, and I'm gonna laugh as I say it. Do you think there's any chance at some point before we all die that they would expand the FM band?
First of all, I've got to commend you. You must have guts of steel that you were willing to serve on the PNB. First of all, that I've got to give you, got to give him snaps for that. That's one of those, I mean, that's one of those jobs I don't think I would take. So if somebody was to ask me to be on the PNB, as much as they've been used as punching bags, I would not do it. I'm sorry. That's right up there with being a commissioner. But I did try for the NFCB board. Didn't make it, but anyway, as far as that goes, yeah, that's I don't see it. Yeah, the thing is that's a concept. We developed a concept called wide FM. And if you go to wide-fm.com, you'll see the REC proposal, the REC concept. And we're talking about extending the broadcast band, which is right now 88 to 108, basically extending it 76 to 108. Brazil is doing this. Brazil has reclaimed their analog television. They don't do almost all of the world except for the North American countries, Canada, US, Mexico, and like one island in the Caribbean, do not have any digital television in the VHF low band, the channels, what we call channels 2 through 6 in this country. They don't, and a lot of them don't have anything in the high band, 7 through 13 in this country. Everybody's gone to UHF, but of course we had to hang out. We decided, oh, our TV, we got too much TV. We don't, I don't know why they, there's a lot of reasons, but there's only right now on the channel 6 spectrum, I think there's only 8 right now, either 9 or 8 licensed full power channel 6 stations. The most vocal is the one right up the road from me here in Philadelphia, WPVI. They're the ones that are stopping a lot of things right now, including radio's relationship with Channel 6 in the reserve band. And there's a possibility Disney's going to be selling the station, and we're hoping that the new owners will be a little more accommodating to us on that. The reality is, the thing is, I would love to see a wide FM concept happen. Our plan even takes into consideration the remaining channel 5 and 6 stations, and we came up with a plan that lets the full power stations stay. The low powers would go, but the full powers would stay, and also the 14 Franken FM stations would stay under our plan. And it was something that I did put on the record, but I did not really make it a formal rulemaking petition. But I did, but the concept is on the record at the FCC. It's not something I don't think that there's really any appetite to do, because the NABs would be against it. And the main reason is because the NAB has a conflict of interest, because they represent both radio and television. And in other countries, the radio and television broadcasters associations are usually separate organizations, but in our country, it's the same. And so I don't see a lot of hope for wide FM, but there is a Sitel recommendation. Sitel is kind of they're kind of like the subset of the International Telecommunications Union. They're like a UN sanctioned organization that has all the member states in the Western Hemisphere, and they have actually issued a recommendation based on Brazil's lead to encourage the use of the channel 5, channel 6 spectrum for FM sound broadcasting. The radios are readily available. They're being sold in Japan right now as wide FM. They're being sold in Brazil as, I think they're calling it FMX down there, or something like that. Something like FMX or XFM, I think is what the brand name is that they're calling it. But in Japan, it's called wide FM. We use that same name for our proposal because Japan did the same thing. Their band was 76 to 90. And when analog TV went away, they broke into 5 megahertz of their old channel 1 TV and extended the band to 95. And what's going in 95? AM broadcasters. Because right now, Japan is in the process of shutting down their commercial AM stations. There's a lot of commercial AM stations that do want to shut down, and they want to just be on FM. And the problem, of course, with Japan is the terrain. It's crazy out there. So doing FM in Japan is a challenge, but there's a lot of foothill effect out there. So yeah, I don't see it happening anytime. I'll be warm food before that happens.
Well, Michi, always informative, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us today and starting off our 2024.
Absolutely. And honestly, I hope we have another LPFM window before I become worm food, but you know.
Yeah, let's work for that. Thank you so much for all your work. All the information's been amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll just have to see how this all goes. And I don't
All
know.
right.
Is there anything relevant in the chat that we need to talk about real quickly? I like I said, I've not been monitoring the chat.
I think Joseph mentioned something in there, but
as the KIDE tower site is surrounded by mountains, the power output cannot operate above.
I was responding to what Sharon had read, the LPFM going at 250, which is a consideration. I'm just saying, well, technically that would make KIDE low power.
Well, yeah.
Awesome. Join the club.
Well, yeah, I mean, LP250 is basically 250 watts at 30 meters above average terrain, which is a 7.1 kilometer service contour. So yeah, powers would just, so the power, if you're above 30 meters above average terrain, then your power would be adjusted down, just like it is with LP100 right now. It just is, it's just, on average, it's your LP100 power times 2.5 is basically what it is in most cases.
Our tower is 1,550 feet below the average terrain.
Then it would be a 200. If your height above average terrain, if you measure your height above average terrain using the FCC tool, using the REC tool, the normal 8 radials, and it comes in at a negative number, then it would be 250 watts ERP. If that number comes in at 30 or lower, it's going to be 250 watts, or like it would be 100 watts if you were an LP. You could have a tower. I mean, you could be at 50 meters below average terrain, and we have a lot of stations in canyons and stuff like that that are like that. They have these very low negative height above average terrains. They could put a tower up as high as they want, literally, and still keep their 100 watts. It's all based on height above average terrain. So, height does sometimes have its advantages. Got to know all the tricks. There's also tricks to raise your height above average terrain if your station is near the ocean or very close to an international border. We can do those over here. We can figure them out.
Well, we didn't.
Well, that can always be changed.
Well,
all right. Well, that's a
modifications can be done.
Well, yep.
Well, that's a good note to end on. Thank you, Michi. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very
really
much.
appreciate you. And thank you everyone for joining us today. This was great.